Here's Gavin Newsom in California.
A party that is in its ascendancy, a party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels, from coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party. It was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. He promised to make us wealthier. We're sicker and poorer. And he fundamentally understands that. Why else would he call Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to 5 seats? Why else is he trying to rig the midterm elections before one single vote is even cast? He understands his position at this moment in the United States of America. One thing he never counted on, though, was the state of California. Instead of agonizing over the state of our nation, we organized in an unprecedented way in a 90-day sprint. People from all over the United States of America contributed their voices and their support for this initiative. We stood tall and we stood firm in response to Donald Trump's recklessness. And tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result. None of us, however, are naive. This is a pattern. This is a practice. Donald Trump's efforts to rig the midterm election continue to this day. And I'll reinforce that in just a moment. You're seeing him take action all across this country, not just in Texas. You saw what they were successfully able to do in Missouri, what they did in North Carolina, what they're trying to do in Indiana, and inevitably in Florida. They are not screwing around. In June of this year, we saw 4,000 National Guard federalized in the state of California. We saw 700 active duty Marines not sent overseas, but sent to the second largest city in the United States of America to militarize our streets. We said in June this was a preview of things to come. What more evidence do you need than what happened in Washington, D.C., what's happening up in Portland, cities like Chicago? When we kicked off this campaign just 90 or so days ago in Little Tokyo, in Southern California, in L.A., at the Democracy Center, Donald Trump sent Greg Bovino. He sent his private police force that increasingly appears to have taken an oath of office to Donald Trump, not to the Constitution of the United States. He sent them to our kickoff rally to chill free expression, to chill free speech, to intimidate people from participating. Just today, in Los Angeles, Donald Trump called up the Border Patrol, sent them to Dodger Stadium, and threw a fastball at free speech, right at the head, free expression, to suppress the vote in America's second largest city. Just did that today. People in tactical gears sent out to intimidate a community that is already on edge. But you see, as we speak, people are still in line. People waiting up 3 hours to cast their vote, to send a message to Donald Trump. No crowns, no thrones, no kings. That's what this victory represents. It's a victory for the people of the state of California and the United States of America. And this is a victory that's punctuated with a sober reminder that it's not just the actions that Donald Trump has taken to federalize our guard, to begin the process of militarizing American cities, to intimidate free expression and speech by utilizing ICE and Border Patrol in American cities. But he also announced today, right when polls were opening, that this election was rigged. That this election was rigged. Of course, those are familiar words. It's exactly what Donald Trump said after January 6th, that day of love, where he tried to light democracy on fire. He tried to wreck this country, and he called in to the Secretary of State in Georgia, calling up for 11,000, 12,000 votes, just like he called Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to those 5 seats. He said this election was rigged, and he's moving to look for criminal prosecution and investigations at the Department of Justice. He is not screwing around. So tonight, I'm proud, but I'm very mindful and sober of the moment we are living in. Donald Trump does not believe in fair and free elections, period and full stop. This is not complicated, and it's self-evident to anyone paying attention. You start to stack up all of these actions that continue to this moment and will continue in moments to come. If you think I'm exaggerating, consider his announcement just a few weeks ago to send rapid response teams all across the United States, in all 50 states, tens of thousands of members of the military prepared for urban deployment, a preview of things to come. But back to this state. Our state of mind was resolute. Our state of mind was resolved to stand firm and to stand tall, to not be intimidated, to not be humiliated, to not fall prey to cynicism, to not fall prey to fear and the anxiety of someone that believes in only one shock and awe, to intimidate and exhaust us. But we're seeing all across this country, 7 million people strong, standing up, not just for themselves, but for each other and for these enduring and historic principles of our founding fathers. And I'll end on that. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the best of Roman Republic, the best of Greek democracy. This fundamental notion of a system of checks and balances, of popular sovereignty, the rule of law. Mr. President, the rule of law, not the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on people, the sobriety of this moment, what's at stake. Tonight, as I said, is an extraordinary moment for our party, but again, it's an extraordinary moment affirming those principles. Our founding fathers did not live and die to see the kind of vandalism to this republic and our democracy that Donald Trump is trying to perpetuate. And so my call tonight, in the spirit of Whitman, we talked about the powerful play goes on. We all must contribute a verse. And so we need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York and Illinois and Colorado. We need to see other states with the remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026. And let me make this crystal clear. We can de facto end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it the minute Speaker Jeffries gets sworn in as Speaker of the House of Representatives. It is all on the line, a bright line in 2026. And so I want to thank everybody that stood up, not just for our democracy, but stood up for those that have feel bullied and intimidated, stood up for this notion of co-equal branches of government and a system of checks and balances. And I want to thank my wife, who reminds me every single day that this is about those that feel alone, those that feel isolated, those that feel an anxiety and a stress that they never could have imagined in their lives. This was about saying to them, we have your back, we see you, you matter, we care. And I'll just say this, I'm confident as we move forward into 2026 in this country, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
What's the lesson for other Democrats from tonight?
She needs no introduction. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to begin. We're getting all of these results in from, of course, here in New York City, but New Jersey, Virginia. It appears to be a huge night for Democrats. What is the national story to you?
You know, I think what this night is starting and shaping up to represent is that Americans everywhere are not going to be scared. We will not be intimidated by an administration that is violating the rights and making life hard and unaffordable for every single American in this country. And we will send in a wave of Democrats that not bow to this administration, but stand up to this administration, and doing so in the interests of working families, in the interest to make life affordable, housing affordable, and to stand for the civil rights of all.
Have you been at all surprised by the level of energy and engagement here in New York, but across the country in a sort of off-cycle year?
You know, I have to tell you, in my traveling across the country, I am hearing and have been seeing consistent things from everyday people. And it is that they are terrified, they are frustrated, they are angry, and they are shocked by a president that thinks he has total impunity and is violating the values that we hold dear, our liberties and our freedoms. And so I'm not surprised, but I am very encouraged by everyday people tonight.
A lot of conversation right now about, well, who is the face of the Democratic Party at this point? Is it Zohran Mamdani? Is it Abigail Spanberger? Who is the face, the soul of the party in your view? Or is it all of them?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. This is a similar debate that I saw happen when I was first elected. And at the end of the day, I don't think that our party needs to have one face. Our country does not have one face. It's about all of us as a team together. And we all understand the assignment. Our assignment everywhere is to send the strongest fighters for the working class wherever possible. In some places, like Virginia for the gubernatorial seat, that's going to look like Abigail Spanberger. In New York City, unequivocally, it is Zohran Mamdani.
Trump has long threatened to pull funding from this city. We know that there's a plan to bring more ICE agents here soon. And he's been very clear about the fact. He endorsed Cuomo last night in the 11th hour. Are you at all afraid of what that fight is going to look like in the coming weeks? Do you think Mamdani is ready to take on President Trump?
Well, you know, it doesn't surprise me. You know, President Trump is a 34-time convicted felon, and he is endorsing a sexual harasser that has multiple accusations, very credible accusations and investigations against them. Birds of a feather, you know, they flock together. And we have to understand how grave this threat is. We know that Donald Trump has not only been convicted of committing crimes, but that the Supreme Court has given him a blank check to continue to commit crimes while in office. So we cannot underestimate the threat and the danger of this moment, but we cannot respond to that threat with cowardice. We cannot respond to that threat with complying in advance. We have to respond to that threat with a strong, organized, cohesive, and strategic effort to fight for working families, rule of law, and civil rights for every American across age, ethnicity, gender, and geography. And I believe that we can do that.
I have to tell you, as I was out at polling locations today, as much as Democrats were talking about Trump, they were also angry with the Democratic establishment, and they were calling people out like Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, who they felt at points, in their view, disrespected Zohran Mamdani during this campaign, that they should have shown him more support, that they had heard these Democrats say vote blue no matter who in the past, that didn't seem to apply at this point. Do you think after what we're seeing tonight there will be more unity in the Democratic Party? Are things going to change?
Well, you know, I think it speaks to the absolutely heroic effort that not just Zohran Mamdani put together, but so many people who participated and were brought together by his campaign. Because they were not just tasked with defeating a Republican. They were also tasked with defeating the old guard of the Democratic Party that essentially led us to many of the perils of this moment. So he had a two-front war to win, which is what makes his victory so deeply impressive. And I do think that this moment, a lot of people who are willing to talk about party unity when it serves them, but not party unity when it serves everybody, it puts those folks on notice. And I think it also puts folks on notice that we have a future to plan for. We have a future to fight for. And we're either going to do that together or you're going to be left behind. And I think that is not a partisan issue. It's not about progressive. It's not moderate. It's not liberal. This is about, do you understand the assignment of fighting fascism right now? And the assignment is to come together across difference no matter what.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, thank you so much for giving us some of your time tonight. I know there are a lot of people waiting to hear from you, of course, from our future mayor or new mayor. Thank you so much. It's great to see you tonight.
We are closely watching California tonight, where polls in California remain open for just a few more hours. Voters in California deciding a measure to redraw California's congressional map. A yes vote on Proposition 50 would open the door for Democrats to gain as many as 5 more seats in Congress. In next year's midterms, that would effectively counteract the Republican redistricting that was ordered up by President Trump in Texas, where they are trying to send 5 more Republican members of Congress from Texas next year. Tonight's vote in California is crucial, but by no means does it put an end to this national fight. In addition to Texas, we've got Republicans in Missouri and Ohio and North Carolina all trying to push through new maps that will aim to give their party a leg up in Congress. That, in turn, has triggered more blue states to respond. That's why we are seeing these people lined up in California tonight to vote on Prop 50. But I will tell you, the latest Democratic-controlled state to weigh in on this just today is the great state of Maryland. Democratic Governor Wes Moore of Maryland has announced as of today that his state is going to form a new redistricting advisory commission. According to Governor Moore's office, this bipartisan commission will solicit public feedback from voters. It will ultimately make recommendations to Governor Wes Moore and to Maryland's legislature on how to potentially change, how to improve their congressional map.
Some big news there. And joining us now is Wes Moore, Democratic Governor of Maryland. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a great evening.
All right. You're already excited. Happy election evening. Tell us about this effort. Are you trying to Trump-proof any election rigging? And if so, does that mean you have a partisan agenda in this project?
No, it just simply means that I want to make sure that Maryland has fair maps come next November when people vote. And, you know, and just to remind people why we are here, the reason that we are even in this situation is Donald Trump decided that he wanted to try to rig elections because he knew that his policies weren't popular. So he started picking and choosing which states that he thought should go through processes to determine whether or not they had fair maps. And as soon as this happened, I was just very clear that if we were going to have a mid-cycle conversation, national conversation about who has fair maps, that there was no way that Maryland was going to sit on their hands. If you look at the maps that Maryland has assembled right now, the maps that Maryland has assembled right now were put together in days and cut up neighborhoods, cut up jurisdictions. And so the reason that I made this announcement today and where I ordered a governor's redistricting advisory commission is because we are going to have a bipartisan group of leaders who are going to listen to the people of the state of Maryland, because we are just going to ensure that we will have fair maps within our state. And so we can have a situation when people are voting next November that the will, the hopes, and the aspirations of the people of Maryland will be heard after going through a fair process.
I have to interrupt you just for a moment. I'm sorry, Governor Moore. I'm sorry, Ari. We do have a call in Virginia. We have a call in the lieutenant governor's race. NBC News can now project that Ghazala Hashmi The Democratic candidate for lieutenant governor in Virginia has prevailed in that race over Republican candidate John Reed. Again, that is a projection statewide for the lieutenant governor's race in Virginia. That means NBC News has now projected both the Virginia governor and Virginia lieutenant governor's races have been won by Democrats. I also need to update our call earlier from the Virginia Attorney General's race. In that case, we do not yet have a call on who is projected to win, but rather than being too early to call, the race for Attorney General in Virginia is now described as too close to call between Democrat Jay Jones and incumbent Republican Jason Miyares. Back to you, Ari.
Really striking there. We're going to obviously get into those results while we appreciate the governor hanging with us. You know what it's like on election nights. You've been in some yourself. So we're balancing. Thanks for staying with us. Go ahead.
You can interrupt me with news like that anytime you want.
Well, it takes us to the next question, which is you were just talking about the future midterm planning. As for tonight, it is early in the night. But what do you see here for your party? And specifically, are you doing anything different than the Democratic message a year ago tonight?
Well, you know, listen, it's a great night for democracy. And honestly, it really highlights the things that I had heard. I mean, I campaigned hard on behalf of Abigail Spanberger and on behalf of Mikey Sherrill. And whether I was with students over in Blacksburg who were talking about since Donald Trump has been in office that they have seen how their job prospects have now declined, whether I was with veterans in Richmond who are seeing how this federal government shutdown is having a direct impact on veterans because 1 in 4 federal government employees is actually a military veteran. And this shuttering that we are seeing, 30,000 people who are being fired from the VA, it's not just impacting veterans, it's impacting the veterans who are working at the VA. Or whether when I was in New Jersey, in Newark, and with preachers over in Newark campaigning on behalf of Mikey Sherrill, who are seeing how we have an administration who is spending their time and their effort banning books. And so the thing that we are seeing right now, and the thing that I'm really excited about is, our push in Maryland around affordability, our push in Maryland around public safety, that people are seeing that the Democrats, this is a big tent and a big party. And whether it's, our focus that we've had where, we've seen as the Trump administration has tried to ban books in Maryland, I signed legislation banning the banning of books, that we have said that we're going to build more housing and build faster because we've got to increase inventory, or whether I made the large investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, that we're all focused on the same issues, affordability, public safety, and creating opportunity for people, and that this party might have a different ways of being able to get there, but our focus and our North Star stays exactly locked in.
Yeah, and if there's a book ban and you ban the ban, then there's no ban. The bad thing becomes a good thing eventually.
There's no ban.
Then there's no ban.
You ain't doing it in Maryland.
Governor, thank you again for joining us on election night. I know a busy night for everyone. Appreciate it.
NBC News has a call to make in the New Jersey governor's race. In the New Jersey governor's race, NBC News projects that the Democratic candidate, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, has prevailed over Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli. No. This was by no means foretold.
No.
This was a race that was considered to be the closest big deal race of the night, likely, based on polling. Jack Ciattarelli making his third consecutive run for governor in New Jersey, therefore having high name recognition in the state. Mikey Sherrill, a fairly moderate national security Democrat, fairly new to New Jersey politics, even though she has been in Congress for several terms now, prevailing in this race. This is a big deal. Ali Velshi's been watching those numbers come in, and we could start to see those trends emerge. This is a live shot of Mikey Sherrill's election night headquarters. I believe that's in East Brunswick, isn't that right? So we're going to be watching this. We're expecting, obviously, a victory speech from Mikey Sherrill, but this is a very big deal. Stephanie Rowland,
I'm going to tell you, in a recent interview, when she said that she thought pork roll, egg, and cheese was disgusting, I was honestly worried for her. In the state I'm like, she may have blown it in my home state. I mean, this is pretty extraordinary, especially Mikey Sherrill is not from New Jersey, okay? And this is a state where sort of hometown authenticity means a lot to people. This is an extraordinary win. I was just at her rally that President Obama spoke at on Saturday night. Listen, it was a tight race. This is something very, very few people expected. Really big win for her.
I will also say there's a machismo factor in New Jersey politics that a lot of people thought was a ceiling for women. I mean, she defeated 5 men in the Democratic primary in order to become the Democratic nominee, and then up against Ciattarelli, who definitely leaned into that in terms of his campaign style. Mikey Sherrill winning and this being called less than 90 minutes after poll closing, Nicole, is really impressive.
Well, and it suggested all the chatter about how tight it was dead wrong. And so it sort of brings us back to where we started, that we don't know anything until the voters speak. Yeah. So tonight is, of course, about the voters, and we'll learn why it was perceived to be so close. You know, was it vibes? Is there a limit to vibes? Is there a limit to the transferability of Trumpism to the Trumpiest of MAGA Republicans? It would seem that there are. I think one of the other hinge points that we have to start to suss out is whether Trump can do all the audacious things that he likes to do while people's personal economies are dire. And I think that the first term was obviously had COVID, blew up in the middle, and it was a global pandemic, and it scrambled the perception of what he had done to the economy. Before that, people had, for whatever reason, vibes that his wealth was transferable. His people would make any excuse possible to say that they just felt better with his hand on the steering wheel of the economy. This time around, he's doing 3 things that he didn't dare to do the first time. One is to publicly take command and control of the Department of Justice and prosecute the people he doesn't like. 2, to say the military works for me and to blow up boats that he says have drugs on them. And 3, knock down the actual White House. I mean, these are 3 things he didn't do the first term. We're month 9. He's doing things that he didn't dare to do the first time he was president, and people feel like garbage about their personal economies. We may be seeing the political limits of that as a brand.
I was just going to say, I mean, Jack Ciattarelli, he's run 3 times, right? And he has evolved like a chameleon through the course of these 3 runs. The first time he ran, and you remember this well, he ran as kind of a technocrat, really not that partisan at all, right? And then he kind of evolved over time. And this time he ran as a little bit of like a Glenn Youngkin type character, right? Where he was saying, I'm for his policies, I'm not for his tone. So to Nicole's point about transferring, he tried to transfer, right? And get some of the Trump energy that allowed Trump to only lose by 6 points. We don't know what the outcome is, but it didn't work.
But Trump freezing money for the Gateway Project hurt. Jack, I mean, that's thousands of jobs. And to Nicole's vibe point, machismo is very loud. And Trumpism is loud, and Trump gear and all that is loud in a state of loud New Jersey voters. But clearly, the numbers didn't bear out.
Well, the thing she's about to be the first female governor of New Jersey ever. Phil Murphy, who is the incumbent Democratic governor, is not popular in New Jersey. But this will be the 3rd consecutive time when we've got the Democratic Party holding the governorship in New Jersey. A single party has not held the New Jersey governorship for 3 straight terms since 1961. But Mikey Sherrill has just pulled that off.
But the thing about machismo is that, the much ballyhooed manosphere, which had me spending hours I'll never get back in my time on this earth listening to podcasts that I'll never unhear, may have misread how those men were drawn to Trump and Trumpism. Because the most emasculating thing on the planet is the loss of your purchase power, the loss of the ability to pick up a tab, the loss of the ability. You know how much a cart at Costco costs? A load of money. The carts are huge and everything is expensive. I mean, the impact on the economy, to people's sense of their power and their agency is massive. And no one except Marjorie Taylor Greene seems to care about it in the MAGA coalition.
And one of the things that was interesting that I picked up in talking to folks in New Jersey and Virginia tonight, and it's particularly true in Virginia, it was an interesting comment. Voters are exhausted. They're tired. They're tired of the whole constant drumbeat. Everything. They're on edge. They just feel there's this constant pressure on them to pay attention to what Trump is doing and to somehow be responsive to that. And meanwhile, to your point, Nicole, moms and dads are sitting down at kitchen tables and going, the books aren't balancing.
It doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. And wait a minute, you mean they cut the SNAP program? What are we? My husband just lost his federal contract? Because the downstream effect of what Trump did, and this has been lost, I think, in translation, it's not just the federal and government employees who've been impacted. It's been the contractors and the men and women who work with the federal government whose jobs were frozen or lost or businesses closed because of what Trump did. And so you compound the pressure of just having to be tuned into everything this man is doing 24/7 with his damn tweets. And then I got to sit down and balance my books too. And he's telling me it's all good. And yet on Halloween, he's hosting this Great Gatsby Gala after having torn down the White House, weaponized the DOJ against people that I know. It all comes back and people get exhausted and they're just tired.
And I think in